Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Color Me Dead, a true crime podcast. I'll say that again, a true crime podcast. With that said, these gals are going to talk to you, and if you get on social media, show you some sick, twisted, vile, fucked up, nasty, disgusting things. If you find yourself sensitive, if you find yourself easily triggered, this might not be for you. Turn back now. If you think you got it and you can handle it, proceed. But first, grab a condom, because these girls are gonna fuck your feelings. Welcome to Color Me Dead.
We did it again.
Oh, what?
No. Oh, did it. We done it again.
You're like, we done it.
I feel like we deserve an award.
We do.
We made it through 5 seconds of silence, but I had to stare at the fan.
I just stared at the time. I was like, 3, 4, 5.
God.
We're good.
In one more second, I can talk.
Jesus.
Welcome, everybody,
Hello.
to another episode of Color Me Dead.
Color me dead.
Bitch.
Bitch.
Well, that's a bitch.
That's bitch. I don't even know what episode number it is. Is it 23?
It could be 23. It could be 24.
It's one of the episode numbers. You'll know. You'll be able to look at it. I'll figure it out by then. I got a week. It's fine.
You'll see after it's been edited and uploaded. But we have a delicious little treat for you guys.
Yeah. Our intern.
So we now have an intern. We have for those of you that don't know, we have been considered a wolf pack for many years, and there's always been 3 of us.
Yes.
And one of the members of the wolf pack has been featured on a previous episode.
Yes.
And now she will be sitting in more often.
All the time.
All the time.
All of the time. She
So-
will be here.
So,
It will be lovely.
everybody give warm welcome to Nikki Toon.
Hey.
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 Hello, Nikki.
Hello.
Tell us a little about yourself.
Oh, we're doing that?
Shit.
Remember on the first day of school when you had to stand up and be like my name is Angel. My favorite color is blue. I like French fries.
And then you second guess. You're like, wait, is it French fries? I don't know. I don't think I like pizza. Pizza.
I made a mistake. I need to go back.
God, I don't even like blue. What the fuck was I thinking?
So originally, Nikki probably would have been with us in the very beginning, but Nikki is a sensitive soul.
She's a
the
tender
most
heart.
sensitive, non-sensitive person.
Right?
So we actually joked about this just a minute ago. Ember is probably the toughest one out of all of us, but
The first one to fucking cut tears
yeah.
on air.
And I fucking cry. Angel cries over Angel. I fucking cry over everything. Like I can watch a Budweiser commercial and fucking tear up. And Nikki just doesn't do scary stuff. She's kind of a sissy that way, but she never cries. Like
No.
I've watched her have a hysterectomy and then like be in severe pain and not shed a tear and just be like, this really sucks. I'm like,
Yeah, and when we all came together, I was like, Nikki and I are the same, because we're the type of person that if you're crying, we're gonna pat you on the back with the broom.
oh yeah, when the
Yeah.
guys like do it from a distance.
Don't look at me while you cry because I don't know how to deal with it. I can't.
I
don't,
get
I'm a dick.
uncomfortable when
Cry
people
in the
cry.
corner like a normal
And
human.
then I
Could
look,
you fucking not show yourself right now? You're exposing, and I
Yeah.
feel
Could you be less
uncomfortable.
emotional right now?
right, and then you're like, I don't know what people would say to me when I cry, so I don't know what to say to you. So I'm like, are you done?
The only,
Is
you know
it
what?
over?
The only one time I've ever seen my friend cry, like even in severe amounts of pain after surgery, bourbon.
No,
No,
it was
Crasher.
Crasher.
It was Crasher when her dog.
I
went
even
over.
made, like, Spencer had to walk out.
Yeah, my
I was
it made my
bawling.
and you would think that would like the amount of tears I shed on a daily basis.
Yeah,
He
but
would be used to it.
well, he's used to you.
Right, but then he saw like Mad Max over here
Oh.
break down and he was like, oh God.
Yeah.
Exit.
What
Where's
do
my
I
exit?
do with my hands?
Oh,
And he
God.
was I'm sorry. And I'm like,
Yeah, I hate that when I'm on the verge of tears and somebody locks eyes with me, or if they reach out and do one of those touchy things. Don't touch me.
Where they do the pat, you're like,
it's over with. Fucking fall apart. And then I feel embarrassed. Like, I pretty much wanted to avoid everybody on social media after I released that episode because I was like, oh my God, I cried. Nobody talk about the time I cried. Okay, that's our secret.
It'll be like the time in college where we, we wanted to see if we liked it.
There was a time Angel and I got super drunk in my kitchen one night.
Okay, let's be careful about what you say because
I
I just talked about college
I know.
scissoring, and then you're like, "There's this one time we were drunk in the kitchen." I'm like, that is not what happened.
There was no scissoring.
only a little.
We got
Just the tip.
just the tip.
Just to see how it feels.
We got unexpectedly drunk in the kitchen, and we were eating fucking cookie butter out of a jar. And we decided to open up. We decided to expose our feelings, which really exposing our genitals would have been less uncomfortable, I think. She opened up about her childhood. I opened up about my childhood. Then we were bawling, and then we both looked at each other and we're like, this moment never happened.
I know. I think I was here the next day and you guys were talking about it. I'm like, I don't want to know.
You're like,
nope, don't get me in on your bullshit.
That was the moment that we both were like, let me open Pandora's box of fuckery most foul from my childhood.
Nope.
And then we both cried.
Yeah,
and then we had to walk away and be like, listen, I can't be your friend for like 48 hours.
Right.
So
It's like when dudes see other dudes doing something, I'll just pretend like it didn't happen.
Right. This never happened.
I don't know, just dudes, but just people in general. That's all I could think of.
Well, I'm fine with both of you seeing my vagina.
That's what I was
not
gonna
fine with you both seeing me cry.
I would rather you see.
I've watched you shoot babies from your vagina.
Me too. We held hands and smiled while watching your vagina.
Dude, I fucking
Expand.
we held your knees to your fucking
did.
ears.
As I shot a baby out of my puss cannon. I know, I was there.
While Angel cried and Ember and I stayed back, we're like, don't make eye contact with anyone because we don't want to join in this bullshit.
Right?
Dude,
we're fine.
We're good.
Watching a baby, I don't care, dude. Watching a baby be born is one of the grossest, most amazing miracles
I never want to see it happen.
I've ever
cool.
seen. And I seriously, like, you get emotional because you just watch this little life come into the world, and it's disgusting.
Oh yeah.
Because when they come out, they're covered with like
Goo.
blood
And
and
then
guts.
they
And
put
They
them
try
on
to
your
put
lap.
you on you,
Yeah.
and you're like,
Oh,
clean
God.
it first.
Wipe it off, wipe it off.
With all three of mine, I put my hands up. I'm like,
Or
I
like,
don't want to touch
the
it. Like, there's
funniest-
shit on it.
You don't serve a meal like this.
The funniest shit ever, though, when Chad was born. So Nikki's father, stepdad, delivered Ember's baby.
Mm-hmm.
Pulls him out of her minge and looks at this baby, and he's all, ooh, big dick Chad.
Everybody meet Big Dick Chad.
Big Dick Chad.
Big dick Chad. And that kid had some gonaddery on,
He's
Between
got
that and his hands.
Yeah, the hands and
Oh, the
feet
mountain
to
hands?
match.
Yeah.
Like, he'll eventually grow into himself.
Maybe.
let's hope so, but he's going to be popular in high school.
He'll be very
Yeah.
popular.
Very popular.
But-
with the ladies.
With the
Oh, the
ladies.
ladies.
But I know that I cannot ever watch somebody give birth because
Dude.
as it's happening, I'll be like, your pussy's turning into a predator mouth. Oh my god!
No, it just
and
like
then I'll get
disappears.
kicked out.
It disappears. It's like
No.
it's like it was never there. And then there's a baby's head, and you're like, wasn't that supposed to be there?
Like,
Where did it go?
Yeah,
I don't know how dudes can watch it and still be like, yeah, I'll put my dick in there later.
Me too.
I
would-
wished you had been there for Jameson because she crowned and I was like, what the fuck is that? And she's like, that's his head. She's laughing. And I'm like, what is it? What is it? And she's like, Angel, their head collapses. Like, you didn't think it was going to come out whole, did you? And I was like, I don't know.
That was with Chad. Remember when Chad's head was all like, I had never seen it like that close, and so Chad's head was like, I'm like, it's wrinkly. It looked like a raisin because it had it like came back out. I'm like, there's. And I keep pointing like somebody, like there's something wrong with this child's head because it's like all raisin-like. And I'm like, oh my God, fix it.
Now that it's been swimming
And
in
then-
fluid for
Yes.
months.
Or the-
And then it was fine like 3 seconds later.
Like, because
so.
after Jameson was born, the doctor's like, okay, we're going to deliver the rest. And I
Oh.
Billy Maysed it. And I was like, but wait, there's more. And he yanked on the umbilical cord. And I was like, go north, go north.
It was so funny. She's like, dude, you just gave birth to Cthulhu. Freaking out. It was so funny with Jameson because it was Angel's first time of knowing any part of the process. So when I was getting my epidural, she's like, oh my God, you just got shot in the back.
Oh, dude, I told her, I was like, this looks like some Young Gun shit, dude. Like, there's blood just like seeping down her back. I was like, are you okay? And she's like, oh, it feels so good.
I'm
like,
so good now.
she was like so far into labor that she felt so much better. And I'm over there like clutching her husband, like, you're letting them do this to her.
I still love that. My favorite picture of Quinn and I is with him.
Oh
with
my God, the
legs are in
selfie.
Stirrups, but like
Yes.
my stuff is covered, but Quinn's doing a selfie and I'm in the background like with my thumbs up and I think
Just
I have
huge.
oxygen.
Oh yeah,
With a
huge
big belly.
fucking belly.
Yeah, it's good
Okay.
times.
That
Anyways.
was scary. When you had oxygen after Chad, I was like,
Oh yeah, like
that
when
stressed
Chad's
me the
heartbeat.
fuck
I
out.
nearly
disappeared.
cried then. I was like, we're sitting over in the corner like pacing. We're like, oh
Well,
my
when your
God.
dad flipped me over and he's like, you need to push now or we're going to slice you right here. I was like, I can still feel half of my, I can still feel, because my epidural didn't work.
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, I'm not doing a slice and fucking pull right here. Because,
Yeah, but you're a goddamn champion that way. He was like, you're pushing right now. And you were like,
All right.
have a baby.
yeah.
Number 3 though, like when they say push with number 3, like give it one good grunt and it's like, there's the baby. But the first one, it's like 7 hours later and you're still pushing. Like, I have no more muscles. But the third one, it's like, whoop.
I was lucky when they told me to push. I was getting it done. It was kind of like those moments where you have to take a big shit, but you only have
Yeah.
like 2 minutes to do it.
So you grab the handles, you bear it down, and you go.
You're like, I'll deal with the fucking hemorrhoids later.
Right.
I gotta get this out. I did the same thing with Joey. I was in labor for forever, but I pushed him out in 10 minutes. Jameson was like 4, and then Chad was like a sneeze.
That's my
And I'm not loose. I just did work. Like,
yeah.
No,
For
she's
the
a
record.
she's a fucking Olympian of childbirthing.
oh god. And that's when I was like, I'm never doing this again. Like,
You're like,
tie me up.
hey, do me a favor, yank all the fucking things out that make babies.
Just reach up in there and pull it out.
It's kind of like after a birthday party. Just tear down all the decorations.
Mhm.
You don't need them anymore.
We're done.
I got that done.
Yep.
After Addison, we're done. Our party's over.
Now you can
Shit's
shoot
been
in there,
clean.
but it's only gonna meet a dead end and disappointment, so it's fine with me. Barren land.
There's nowhere to go.
So the case that we're actually doing for episode 24 is the Chicago Ripper Crew. And if you guys are not familiar or have never heard about this,
You're about to.
you might want to brace for impact. This is a lot like a nuke,
Mm-hmm.
because some of the things that you're going to hear are pretty raw dog.
And I realized we kind of go raw dog for a while. I mean, we did 3 weeks of Toy Box. Then
I
last
know.
week we did our episode that we did with kids and necrophilia. And now we're moving into Chicago Ripper Crew. But I promise after this 2-part Chicago Ripper Crew, our next couple episodes are pretty light.
Yeah, a little
And then-
lighthearted.
And then back in the
And back into the fucking fray.
And then we'll jump right back in with Ed Gein. I mean, it's going to be a good time.
I love you. You're right back into Ed Gein. Nipple belts. Yay!
Box of vulvas. Here we come.
I know. I've been reading about that. It's been
I
amazing.
still, every time you say box of vulvas, I'm like,
You said
box. Oh, I was going to say vulva.
Vulva.
I can't. Box, butthole. Like, I struggle with certain words because I'm
Growing
fucking
up.
retarded.
Growing up with a doctor and a nurse, hearing all of their like the real terms, I'm like,
Mhm.
you used the real word. You said scrotum.
I hate when little kids say atomically or
Like, the correct,
Right.
like the anatomical word.
yes, atomically.
say
Oh,
that.
fuck.
That was where the word China,
Mhm.
when we were talking about vaginas, because my niece would be like, my China hurts, because she fell off of her scooter
Oh,
and
no.
smacked her little coot. And she was like, my China hurts. And I was like,
Oh.
your China, because she wanted to say vagina. And I'm like, I can appreciate you trying to teach your kid the right word, but
I had friends that their kids, or they were a doctor, and so their kids would be like, my penis or my scrotum. I'm like, you're fucking gross. Say wiener, like, or dick, or
Right.
fucking anything.
anything but penis and scrotum, I think, is probably.
Yeah, that was the one that always got me.
Or
no.
anus. Anus makes me fucking
Anus. I remember when I was little. You know the spice anise. I was little.
I can't.
I was little, and we had. No, it's anise.
It's anise.
Okay.
It's disgusting either
All right,
way.
It's like
I'll give
coming.
Cumin. Cumin.
I laugh every time.
Oregano.
Oh,
Anyways, I was like 4. No, I was older than that because I could read. Anyways.
6, 5, 6-ish.
I saw it and I was like, why do we have a box of anus in our cupboard? And my dad lost his mind. He's like, what? And I was like, this. Why do we have a box of anise? And my mom did what you did. My mom did what you did. It's anise. And my dad's like, now on.
No, it's anus.
It's anus. And she's like, can we settle for anise? Nope. Fine. But yeah.
Nope.
Why do you got a box of anus up here? What's going on, guys?
Said box and anus.
Box o anuses. I just...
All right, hold
It's
on. I gotta
next
get
to
my
the
shit
coming.
together. All right, hold on.
So sorry.
I'm gonna have to start doing Lamaze to get over
Right?
this.
I just realized how I feel so bad for my parents. I said I was a serial killer once. He got boxes of anuses. When I was like 4, my mom yelled at me because I left the door open. She did the classic, "Are you born in a barn?" And I turned around. I was like, "No, but I was born in the hospital with the door open." And I slammed the door and walked away.
Oh,
like,
shit.
my parents just were fucked, and I apologize for nothing.
My stepdad taught me everything I know, so I don't feel bad for anybody.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Anyways,
I got it.
okay, Angel, take us.
Sorry. So from May 1981 to October 1982, there was a satanic cult that like ripped through Chicago. Literally ripped through Chicago. Taking any woman that they felt taking any woman that they felt like taking, and there wasn't a requirement except for big boobs, big titties. That
Fatty
was
two tits.
fucking God, Rocky. Just call me Fatty Two Tits. But that was their requirement. Oh, by the way, that's a
Reference
to
Cool.
What the Fuss
Go
podcast.
listen to that
And
podcast,
you
you'll
really
love
need
'em.
to get that one. I think it's episode like 93 or 94. But that was their only requirement, is that they had big breasts. Now, they didn't really have a type much like Joel Rifkin, who enjoyed sex workers, or like West Mesa Body Pit, where that person enjoyed petite Latina women or whatever.
Or like Bundy with his
Oh,
brown hair split in the middle.
had the little skater boy.
Most serial killers have a type.
A taste.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? We all enjoy our favorite candy,
Right.
and most
They
will
like
have
The
those.
Ripper Crew was like,
They're
give
like
me
fat
all of them.
kids. These guys are like fat kids.
Yeah.
I'll take it all.
I'll take it all. So they didn't really have like something that fit into their profile, and they were known to like snatch women in broad goddamn daylight. So these guys were out of control. Okay. So
They were the ones going extra.
they were way extra. Later, it would be found that 4 people were responsible for these horrors. And Chicago kind of lived in fear for quite some time over these guys. And first, we're going to touch base on...
If you gotta sneeze, man.
Dude,
Do you
my
need-
nose is running. I'm like trying not to make the
Yeah,
noise. And it's like,
Nikki and I have like this weird cold thing
God.
thanks to our petri dishes that we call children.
Oh my God, dude. I
So-
just got over mine, so...
Yeah.
Because my kids bring home all the... They're like little garbage pail kids.
They're
right?
disgusting.
And it just keeps going. Like
I know.
snowballs.
So
Anyways.
anyway, later it would be found that 4 people are responsible for the horrors that were awaiting Chicago. And we're going to get into them later, but first we kind of want to talk about the victims.
Right.
There were only 2 survivors out of the attack, and there were 5 dead.
Yep.
So, May 23rd, 1981, Linda Sutton would go missing, and she was a 28-year-old mother of 2. She had a 9-year-old and a 1-year-old, and she was a sex worker. She was abducted near Wrigley Field, kind of behind what is it, the Moonlight Motel or
Yeah.
whatever, kind of like in the Villa neighborhood or whatever.
Some sort of stupid name.
Okay.
I forget what it is. It's in here, but
It's
my
the Rip
brain.
Van Winkle.
Yeah.
Isn't that the name
It's
of
like
the hotel? The Rip
Van
Van
Winkle
I had to read
Moon
that.
Hotel.
Yeah.
It's
Some
like
fucking-
ridiculously long. It's a mouthful, and you know that it's one of those like shitty fucking.
That has like stains on the carpet and the ceiling and
Yeah.
fucking, there's probably it's like Joe's apartment. You're sharing your bed with some roaches.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's probably already blood and shit from other murders in there.
For
It's
real.
Cool.
Yeah, it's fun.
Yeah,
So
fine.
she would actually be found there, and she was found 10 days later, June 1st, and her body was severely mutilated.
Mhm.
Like to the point of like her breast had been completely removed. Hadn't she been like chewed on and beaten? And yeah. So police really didn't think that the body that they found was Linda Sutton because
it was in such advanced stages.
like, yeah, of decomposition. And they found maggots on her body.
Yeah, which
and-
is the only indication that they're like, it doesn't make sense because her body is so decomposed, but there's still maggots on it. And we'll get into like different things like that in a later episode, one of our fun episodes that we're doing. But yeah, so they didn't think that it was actually her.
No, because it took 2 weeks to identify her.
Right.
And so there is some information about the way that they found her that is very interesting because she still had her sweater on.
Mm-hmm.
She still had her underwear, but they had been like yanked down
To her thighs.
to like her, like her mid thigh or to her knees or whatever.
That makes me feel so dirty. I hate that thought.
I know.
Yeah. And she still had her socks on.
Yeah.
And in her sock was money. And so that kind of negates the thought that she had been attacked for monetary reasons
Yeah.
because they left the money, but
Whatever the reason they killed her, it had nothing to do. Like the motive had nothing to do with money.
nothing. Like she hadn't been robbed of her possessions. So the other thing is that she had both of her breasts removed. Like, sorry, dude.
Well,
I like keep grabbing my own chest
Right.
like it's going to help me feel better about what I'm saying.
I
Yeah.
held mine while I would read this. I'm like, no. I mean, I know there's not that much there, but I'll keep them.
I know. I just, ugh.
They're not very pretty, but I'll keep them.
She,
mine.
I know,
Yeah.
mine look like fucking Rango when I take my bra off. One's over here, one's over there.
Oh my God. Mine disappear.
But
hello.
they, is it me you're looking for? But she had been stabbed several times.
Several times.
And she had
This
also
lass was stabbed several times.
she had been stabbed several times, and she had also been raped.
Mm-hmm.
And this is like something the police were not familiar with, like this type of brutality and this level of fucking heinous shit. They were just like, what the fuck?
Yeah, and so since she had those 2 huge open wounds where her breasts had been, plus all the stab wounds and everything like that, that's what rapidly increased the state of decomposition.
Right.
Yeah.
Because, well, she had 2
all
huge.
open.
Yeah.
Yeah, because there was parts when they had found her that you could see parts of her skull, like all of that part had been completely.
Well, and she had like
Ugh.
a cloth that was shoved like way down in her throat, and she had been like cuffed.
Yeah, she was still cuffed.
And so there were things that the cops were seeing. And this is kind of like when we go back and talk about what the police and the first responders fucking see, you guys.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
if you had seen this body the way that these detectives had to go in and
See that?
yeah.
Because it's one thing to hear about it, it's one thing to read about it. It's even one thing to see a picture of it.
That's
Right.
what I was
It's a
gonna say, 'cause
totally
you
different
know-
ball game to walk up
Yeah.
onto it.
If you're looking this up and you know you're looking up the Chicago Ripper Crew and that picture comes up, you know sort of what you're getting into. But if you walk up to that because somebody's called it in, like, fuck.
Yeah.
Oh, fuck.
And she's
Yeah.
been cuffed. She's got this cloth shoved down her throat. Both of her boobs have been amputated off of her body.
Mhm.
She's full of maggots. She's got her panties pulled down. You know what I mean? Like there's things that these people see that you will never understand. And this is why I always support like
Mhm.
first responders. I back the
yeah.
blue,
Yeah.
that kind of thing. February 12th in 1982, there was a 35-year-old waitress who was actually abducted. And it was kind of like she ran out of gas because the
Right.
gas gauge was on empty. So it was almost like she had stopped to get help.
Mhm.
And so she had been yanked and possibly abducted while looking for help. Now her purse and her keys and everything were still in her vehicle. So again, going back to that thing where this was not monetarily motivated. They weren't trying to take her cash. They weren't trying to take her possessions. She was simply abducted for one purpose.
Yeah, she was the possession.
She was. She had also been found later nude on an embankment. She had been tortured. She had been raped and mutilated. Her left breast had been completely amputated off of her body. And this is kind of like a trend that you'll see.
Right, because this was almost a year later after Linda Sutton. And so with the breast missing, that's when police were like, okay, maybe that has something to do with it. So let's not release to the press any information about
no,
the
because
breast.
you don't want to give any.
You can't give it all.
Right.
They just want to give just the tip.
You don't want to tip off the people doing it.
Right.
Yeah.
And you don't want people coming in to admit to false things, because some people do, because they're weird.
The fucking attention whores that are like, I did it.
Yeah, but then not be able to give critical
But
information.
no, you didn't.
But no, you didn't.
Of all the
Sorry.
things you didn't do, you didn't do this. The
Yeah.
most.
Of all the things that never happened, this never happened the most.
The most.
But this, the Ripper Crew, really did happen.
Yes.
So just a few days later, a Hispanic woman's body was it was found. She had been raped and strangled, and her breasts had been badly, like, they were chewed on and mutilated, almost to the point where, like, didn't she have, like, one of them was, like, hanging?
Mm-hmm.
And it also showed signs that her body had been masturbated on.
Mm-hmm.
So not only did they take her and mutilate her and chew on her, but then they ejaculated all over her body before they disposed of it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. And I don't know if the way that they found her body and the condition that it was in, that they would have been able to extract any viable DNA.
Right.
Does that make sense?
And I mean, how great was DNA evidence in 82?
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. They don't have
Like
all
it's
that.
not
I don't know.
It's not as great.
No, I mean, nowadays you can find a fucking fingernail clipping and people like Stephen David Lampley will take it and be like, oh, look, it's Angel Prue from blah, 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 blah,
Here's
blah.
a sneeze particle from fucking 1996. Let me
look.
fucking
It looks
test
like
it.
she had a little cold.
Yeah.
So,
She was
you know,
40
if
into
it was... It was
She had
pretty...
just got done eating garlic.
right?
Woo!
It was... Oh, it was garlic sauce from Papa John's. Fat ass.
Papa John's.
So her body had obviously been masturbated on. They found semen on her body or what have you. But were they going to be able to pull anything from it that was worth... Not worth...
But be able to.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, because the waitress and the Hispanic woman were never actually, none of the people that were in the Ripper Crew were actually convicted for these two crimes. But they know that they did them. They just couldn't.
Yeah. They didn't have
convict
anything
them.
to connect
Right.
it.
So on May 15th, 1982, which was actually just a couple days off from the 1-year anniversary from when Linda Sutton went missing.
Right.
21-year-old Lorraine Borowski
Mm-hmm.
was taken just outside of her work, and she worked at
I'm like super proud of you for pronouncing that properly.
I know, me too.
I
was
think it's
like,
because
You're getting so good.
I think it's because I'm fucked up in my brain, like sinusy wise. Like my brain, I just can't think. So therefore, if I can't think, I can't be nervous. So if I look at a
you
word,
can't overthink it, and
Yeah.
it just flows.
yeah.
Yeah, I know.
Mostly it's just me who fucks things up because I know how to say it, but then I look at it and then I'm like, oh, I'm also in front of a microphone. So my brain's like, delete.
that weren't even that weren't even
How do you
the
English?
same letters. Jesus.
Jesus.
Anyways, she was literally pulled off of the street as she was trying to open up the real estate office that she worked at. All of her belongings were on the ground, like her shoes, her purse, her keys, everything. So when we say she was literally snatched,
Yeah.
Like fucking yanked.
It was like drop all your shit and go, like in old school when they pull up with the van
Yeah.
and they like grab them and haul them off. That's what I thought of when I read
It's
this. I was like,
pretty
well,
much,
shit.
dude.
And it's in the fucking morning.
yeah, it's bright and
God,
early.
you think you're safe in the morning?
You would think.
Nope, you're not.
No.
You're fucking not.
Anyways, what's sad is that Lorraine's family actually started, well, it's not sad. Naturally, they're going to start looking for her everywhere.
Mm.
And her little brother at the time, he was 14, and he spent all of his time when he wasn't at school trying to go and search for his older
like
sister.
pass out flyers
I
and
can't
spend
even-
countless hours
Mm.
trying to help find
Right.
his sister.
And her mom also would walk around with a white sheet every night that they went to try to go and look for her. So if they found her, they could at least give her
Cover.
some decency
Yeah.
and cover her body. Whoa.
I had to look away from you while you were
Yeah.
reading that because I was going to get upset.
I read that like 15 times and I was like, really? Like, I would never think of that because I'd be in such a panic looking
Right.
everywhere.
But her mom actually had the wherewithal to stop and think about, like, when I find my daughter.
I need to cover her up.
Well,
for
and
him
she
to come
also
see her.
handled it with a form of almost like realism, you know?
Like I'm not
there's
going to
knows
find her.
there's-
Yeah.
optimism, there's pessimism, and then there's
Being
realism.
yeah, being
And
realistic.
she understood that obviously in the way that she was snatched, all of her stuff was still out. The likelihood of me finding my daughter alive is pretty much none. So if we get to find her and she's alive, great, but I'm also going to carry this with me
Yeah.
just in case.
Oh, dude, that you made me weep.
Now
Dude,
there's two of us
that's
uncomfortable in here because you're crying.
I know. Well, it's fuck,
It
dude.
is,
That's
dude.
It's
sad.
horrible.
It is sad.
Horrible.
I don't like it. Could you imagine putting yourself in that situation with any of
No.
your kids?
No, because I just did. Like
Yeah.
thinking,
Yeah.
mm-mm. No, I don't like it.
So there was a hypnotist that was hired around the same time, and I'm going to assume that it was her family that hired them because that's not usually something police will hire
Yeah.
for.
Like
Especially
yeah.
in the 80s.
Right. And
Well, I don't know. I was only 2 then, but what else?
I was -8.
You were
so
very
there's
negative.
that. Still in
Actually-
the balls somewhere, I'm sure.
I was only
In the
like
scrotum.
1.5 in May, so.
I don't even think I was in there yet. I wasn't a batch of baby butter yet, even. That would have been
Yeah.
blown a long time ago. Sorry. I'm uncomfortable, so.
I'm going to talk about baby butter.
I'm uncomfortable. Let's talk about my
Scrotum.
dad's fucking semen.
Because
Yeah,
that's not weird.
because that's fine. That's less uncomfortable.
Oh man,
Okay.
I'm sweating.
Me too. So this hypnotist started putting people under and asking around what happened on the day that Lorraine disappeared on May 15th. And they were hoping to get some information. And one person said that they remember seeing like a red or an orangish van that was parked in the parking
Of course, it was a
lot that day.
fucking van.
Right. However, that's all they got out of it. So you can't just be like, oh, there was a random van parked in a parking lot one day.
Oh.
That's it.
Yeah.
No.
Who did they hypnotize? That's a stupid question, I know. But,
No, not really. When they hire a hypnotist.
like, who are they hypnotizing?
I think
to
they were
find out?
hypnitizing people that were around the same,
Oh, trying to
like
see if
the
they could, like,
businesses.
extract
Okay.
information from their brains.
Yeah,
Oh,
from
okay.
fellow
All right.
businesses or whatever that was surrounding.
Every time that came up when I was researching stuff, I'm like, who?
But who? Yeah, I'm assuming that it was people that were working in other places near the real estate place where she was working.
Mm-hmm.
And so they would that didn't turn up anything. So they would just continue to look for Lorraine. And it would be a while until they find her. Moving on. So May 29th, which is 14 days later,
Mm-hmm.
a woman by the name of Shui Ma.
I believe you got that one as well.
Fucking, I should be sick more
2
often.
for 2, bitches.
Yeah. She was actually taken from Hangover Park.
Sounds like a horrible park.
Mhm. I know. Because this was just north of the Villa Park, and that's the same Villa Park where Linda Sutton's body was found the year before. And her and her brother were fighting. They were on their way driving home from their family business. I think it was a restaurant, if I remember correctly.
Mhm.
And she got out of the car, and her brother drove off, and that was the last anybody ever saw from her. So we go into June 13th of 1982 is when Angel York, who was a sex worker, was picked up by some AKA finger quotes Johns in a van. When she entered the van, she was immediately handcuffed, and Angel's story would be like the other women mentioned, except for she actually got to survive her attack. So this is where police and everybody else kind of got to know what was really going on.
Mm-hmm.
She would say, while in the van, the men would begin to torture her, and they would hold her down, and they would force like a mixture of pills and booze down her throat. And it would be said later that the reason why they did that is because if you can drug them up, then they're quiet.
They're a little bit more compliant. They're not wiggling around trying to get away.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
can't fight as much.
Because I'm sure if you're capturing a bitch in a van, it's not like those are very soundproof.
No, you know what, dude, and I'm pretty compliant if you hand me a Norco and a shot.
Well,
like,
you
I'm
don't
going
get
to
a
sleep.
choice. Yeah.
All I need is like one pain pill, and I'm like, oh, bye.
Goodbye.
Exactly.
I'm out for
I'm
12
a
hours.
huge nin.
I am too. After that, they would take turns actually raping her and stabbing her, and then slowly and painfully with a torture device, they would wrap it around her left breast and slowly remove it until it was completely gone. And then that's when shit gets south. Because after they remove the breast completely, it sends one of the men that's in part of this group of 4 into a kind of fit of almost like a rage type thing, but a sexual rage,
Like a lustful rage.
so where the breast once was now is an open wound. What is he going to do with that open wound? He's going to fuck it. So there's
he has intercourse with an open wound on his victim. Okay.
Yeah.
After he was done jerking off into her body, where that's the open wound, they take duct tape, put it over the breast like a fucked up little Band-Aid, and they pull over and they dump her out onto the streets and drive away.
I don't know how people sleep after that, like after something like that happens to them, how they carry on with like daily life.
That's what I was gonna say. Is that while I'm glad there was survivors to be able to tell the story, I'm a quitter. I'd rather die. Like fucking kill me.
That's a lot to take
in and deal with, and like
you.
Yeah, dude.
I read somewhere too that I don't know if it's totally true.
Semen is not a liquid Band-Aid. You can't fucking fix that.
But I heard that it was a writ, and I didn't hear. Stop it.
Oh my god.
Sorry, I always feel bad because Angel gives me this look of like...
No, because sometimes like Ember will squeeze out something that like just...
I know.
And it's not that I'm like judging you. It just like sometimes it takes me by surprise.
I was trying to go on with my thought, and then she says liquid Band-Aid, and I'm like, oh my
god.
I'm so sorry.
Stop. What I was going to say though is that I read that it was a piano wire that they used. Did you read that too?
Yeah.
Oh, gross.
And we'll talk more about everything that they do more, I think, in part 2, once they start confessing and they actually bring forth whatevers. Anyways, Angel York would tell police as much as she could, which was pretty much not anything because she was so drugged up.
Yeah, it wasn't viable information.
Right. The only thing that she could do was say that it was a red or orange van and a couple of dudes, which kind of ties back into the other red or orange van, but there's still nothing else.
They don't have a description. They don't have a license plate number.
You've
got a red or orange van.
And you're all on drugs, even though, you know.
Well, and sadly, there is also the stipulation of she was also a sex worker.
Well, and back then, I think back then it was even more of that stigma of you deserved this because this is what you do for work.
Yeah. What do you expect when this is what you do?
It's kind of like how we feel if you're going to listen to a true crime, you should fucking expect shit that we're going to say. Police expect, oh, well, you are a sex worker, so anything terrible that happens to you, you're in a high risk thing, which that's a fucked up thing no matter what. But there are, when I was reading about it in a police thing, there are different levels of victims. Like you have high risk victims, which would be your sex workers, anything like that, where with what they do for a living, they're putting themselves in a more dangerous position rather than like a fucking housewife. Correct. Yeah. I don't leave the house. So they're in different levels, which I understand, but that still, in my opinion, doesn't mean that you should discredit anything that happens to them.
Yeah.
Right, it's a high risk thing. It happens. That would be like, okay, you're a soldier and you died, but that's a high risk thing, so we shouldn't give 2 fucks about you. No, that's not how this works. So how any of this works?
No.
So August 28th of 1982, so just a couple months after Angel York, Sandra Delaware would be the next victim that would be found, and obviously she would not be as lucky as Angel. She would not survive. So they still have Lorraine and Shuey, who is missing, and Sandra was a young girl, but she was also a sex worker, and she turned to a sex worker because that's how she needed to survive on the streets of Chicago. and she would be found on the bank of the Chicago River. Now, when they find her, her wrists had been bound behind her back with shoelaces, and her left breast had also been removed. She had her bra knotted around her throat, and because of that, her death was also ruled as strangulation. So they strangled her with her own bra, which is just every death that we're talking about ever is horrible.
Yeah.
But I hate fucking bras. I hate them.
Mine comes off as soon as I possibly can. Like my tits have been in a hostage situation for way too long.
I don't know why I'm still wearing one right now.
I'm only wearing one because there's other men in the house.
I don't even care. Anyways, she still had all of her valuables on her. She still had all of her money, all of her jewelry, everything of that nature. Her attackers had shoved a rock into her mouth and a wine bottle into her anus, is what they put. So, into her anus.
I was just going to say.
Into her anus. I hope it was just the neck.
No.
Oh, God.
I know.
No, I believe it was broken because the police had found dried blood underneath her, so she had been bleeding from it. And she had been stabbed many times, and some of the stab wounds had shown more foreign, like ripping or trauma, which is stuff that we will get into eventually. Not right now. So police were having a very hard time pinpointing or creating a profile for these attackers, because you have Lorraine, who was a real estate agent. You have Shui, who was
just
Chinese,
Asian
descent. I can't remember exactly. You have young sex worker. You have a waitress. You have all a Hispanic. There's nothing. There's no profile.
No, it's all random. It's basically like just a roll of the dice.
Mm-hmm.
And I kept reading through them to try to, I'm sure everybody did, but trying to make a connection between them. There's nothing.
Yeah,
they all have boobs. Like
the only
literally
connection
it.
is that the left breast is removed. That's it.
Yeah.
There's
and they
nothing
were all
else.
heavy bosom girls.
They were gifted in the
Mhm.
upstairs department. They stood in line a couple of times. I understand. I used to stand in that line too until I decided I didn't want to be fatty two tits anymore. And now my tits are going away, but not my fupa as quickly
They
as I would
volunteered
like.
as tribute.
They did, assholes. So this caused a ton of fear for women in Chicago during this time. Many of them started they're like, I need to be walked. Somebody needs to be with me at all times, because it wasn't just at night.
Well, fuck yeah, dude. Like, you need the buddy system. Because they're being snatched off the fucking street in broad daylight.
In the morning.
Mm-hmm.
All right. September 8th, 1982, 31-year-old Rose Davis, who was a marketing executive, was found dead behind a stairway at the North Lake Shore apartment building. She was not easy to identify due to the fact she'd been severely mutilated.
Badly.
Yeah.
It's like they went fucking hard on this one.
Yeah. Her face was crushed beyond recognition. Her body showed signs of being beaten multiple times. There was a black sock tied around her neck, and her clothes were in shambles. It looked like she was beaten with a hatchet. Like, what side of the hatchet, though?
I think like the
hatchet
axe.
side.
Like the sharp
business
the
end.
business end of the hatchet.
'Cause I mean, realistically, either side that you get hit is gonna hurt, but one's just gonna be worse than the other.
Yeah, and I don't know. I don't know why she was beaten as bad as she was. I don't know if because it was found on, like, from what I understand, because this is all around like Elgin in Chicago, which is actually interesting because Lindsay is from there.
Oh, really?
Yeah, some
I didn't know
of Sheila, I think, lives around there, and so does another friend of ours, Courtney. I'm not sure how much they listen to our show. But either way, so tell us if North Lakeshore apartment, I think it was like called Gold something. I would have, my brain is broken, but I think it's on the ritzier end of town.
Okay.
All right, sorry.
All right. She also had a pool of dried blood under her anal cavity. Cavity? That's a new thing.
That anal cavity, man. Cavity.
Watch your
you
cavity.
know some bitch in Utah is going to name her child Cavity.
Oh
now.
my god.
Oh,
Don't
no.
give them ideas. Don't give
God.
anyone ideas.
It's going to happen.
But it's going to
Cavity
be spelled,
Ray.
it's going to be spelled
Cavity.
really weird.
Cavity.
It's gonna be like K apostrophe A.
Okay, so my next animal,
Neigh.
my next animal will be Cavity.
Cavity. Anal cavity. Get over here.
Anise cavity. Get your ass downstairs.
Oh my god.
It's a good thing that I cannot get pregnant. Right?
Oh my god, I choked.
Anise cavity. That's a beautiful
Anise
name.
Everybody
Anise
would love
Cavity
it.
Hammond. Sorry.
So anyway,
Sorry, you're trying to talk and we're being inappropriate.
you're fine. But anyway, there was dried blood under her anal cavity. Like she'd been brutally raped. Or,
Brutal.
you know, very
They were
brutal.
not nice to her.
No.
They're not nice to anybody, but they especially.
Yeah, this one is horrid.
Mhm.
She also had her left breast removed, and there was deep cuts on her right breast. She had puncture marks to her abdomen as well. There was also evidence of some stab or of the stab wounds. Good hell.
The
Let me
same,
try
the
it
same
again.
issue with the last person about some stab wounds being stretched out.
Yes. Yes. So they had the stab wounds were used for sex.
So there was additional trauma that
Yes.
had been identified to these wounds.
Yes.
I cannot make the words. I know what I mean. Can you just?
Fuck words make mouths.
Yes. Yeah, that.
Fuck words make mouths.
Yeah. I like it.
I was fucking it up halfway through, and I'm like, we're
Oh,
going
I'm
this
just
way.
gonna
gonna
roll
go
with it,
with
dude. I'm
it.
going. It's
Yes.
dude.
Fuck
you'll-
words make mouths. Jesus.
Fuck words do make mouths. That's how you have 3 kids.
They do.
Exactly.
I mean, truer words have never been spoken.
Dude.
Oh my god.
I should not be here.
So, police knew this seemed to be a symbolic or a ritual of some sort. Like
Yes.
it was a cult, maybe. I don't know.
Maybe, man, it was a cult.
Yeah, I'm just speculating here.
I'm gonna
but
speculate, but I'm
but
saying
that-
it was a cult, man.
this might be a little cult-like.
Got a little culty vibe.
Culty vibe. However, the methods of death weren't always the same. A psychiatric assistant would say that this person obviously has a dark side, but was probably someone you wouldn't expect. What the hell?
She okay over there?
I finally said the words right, and you're laughing them.
She's not okay. There's about to be some tea spilled everywhere.
And then she shit.
Oh.
Can I have some of that tissue?
For your ass or for your mouth? Because I don't know.
You want me to give you
No,
two
dude,
rolls?
it was a dry fart. I'm sorry. I don't know why that was so funny. This person obviously has a dark side. You don't fucking say.
Right?
Thanks,
Oh.
Captain Obvious. So glad you could use your psychiatric fucking medical license for
The
that.
way that she said that just
Tickled
I'm
your
sorry.
fancy?
Yeah,
Oh,
dude, I'm
God.
sorry.
tickled you deep. Okay.
Anyway.
It hit me kinda hard.
Anyway, this person was someone you probably wouldn't expect, like a family man, somebody who blends in.
So, like,
David Parker Ray.
yeah. So somebody that's like, oh no.
Yeah,
Those are always the worst, I've decided.
hey, but he's so nice.
What a nice
Is he?
guy.
Is he?
He's a nice man.
He's just such a nice man.
That's a nice mustache.
Yeah, those are nice glasses.
Oh my god.
That's a nice man.
There's no dents in that band.
I think we should make a shirt that says noise.
Nice. Nice man. Nice man. Nice stash.
Nice plans.
Sorry, okay.
They also know that with the breast ring being removed and the raping of the bodies, that it was a type of paraphilia. The way they found all of them having the left breast removed was symbolic, and the fact that the breasts were never found points it out to be a trophy.
Trophy kill.
Well, there's always that, like,
You always gotta take her stuff.
dude, Dean Kroll had the keys.
All the keys.
David Parker Ray had licenses.
All the licenses.
Like, remember that when I first started my new job and I took a picture of that box of keys and I was like,
Go.
if I don't make it home, call the police.
I can tell you who did it. It's the man with the keys. This guy just has boobs. They were dealing with the trifecta of a fucked up person trying to pass as a human.
Yep. He was
No,
a meat
seriously.
sack gone sour.
For real. Meat popsicle that thawed out.
It's not
Went
good
bad.
anymore.
Ew.
Ew.
Ew. So in September 11th, 1982, Carol
Pappas.
Pappas.
We only know because of Elliot.
Yep.
Oh, shit.
Well, Stephanie's not
I
officially.
knew that too. I don't know why. All right. Whatever.
No, you're good. See, you're just. See, the
Right,
intern has
right.
taken my place.
I know.
I will fuck up all the words now. Like, it was like I magically took over the
You make
word
me
fucking
look
up,
professional.
and you can say all the right words.
Oh,
so
man.
This is wonderful.
That's
it's not going to
amazing.
happen for long. though.
amazing.
Amazing.
Anyway, she was the wife of Chicago Cubs pitcher Milt Pappas, and she went missing.
Mhm.
She disappeared without a trace from a store in nearby Wheaton, Illinois. Wheaton.
Sorry.
September 30th, 1982, the body of okay, you did it right, but I'm going to fuck it up. Shuey Mock was found buried in a shallow grave or a hole at Barrington. She was raped repeatedly, left breast was cut off, and then she was killed with an axe, sliced into ribbons, and then buried.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And so this was, see, she went missing. Was it May? Let me look back.
Yeah, dude, she'd been gone for
Yeah,
like
so
5.5 months.
so May to September is how long she was missing before she was found.
And then October 8th, 1982, a 20-year-old sex worker named Beverly Washington was found on a railroad track, severely hurt but still alive. Hours later, in a seemingly unrelated incident, a drug dealer, Rafael Torrado, was killed. A friend of Rafael was wounded when the occupants of a cruising van peppered their phone booth with the rifle fire. So it was a busy day, but naturally Beverly rated more important.
Yeah, you got a young woman who shows up with the same type of things as all these other women, but she's still alive. They're like, yeah, we'll get to the drug dealer when we
Yeah.
get to him, but
This
is most important. Which I mean,
I get that.
obviously,
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Where they're trying to nail down whomever is doing this, and they finally are like, you know, whoever's working on this maybe was like, I'm getting closer, I'm getting closer.
because
So-
this has been going on for over a year now.
Right.
So Beverly wakes up in the hospital with her left breast gone, her right breast severely mutilated, but she could give the police the descriptions that they needed.
Yeah, where Angel York could not.
Could not.
Yeah. So this is kind of
Beverly.
Yes.
Yeah,
Pivotal.
yeah.
We come through, Bev.
Yeah. Heavy hitter. So
Mhm.
she tells the police how she was picked up by a slender white man around 25. He had a mustache.
Of course he fucking did.
Man, mustache.
I gave it back to you.
A mustache.
A mustache.
That's a band with a mustache.
Oh, yeah.
We know what we're doing to your band now.
It's the mustache.
It's a mustache.
The mustache.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, shit. Okay.
He
I'm
also-
just not gonna talk. I'm just gonna
I
sit
can't.
here.
Shh, be reverent.
Yes.
Stay sweet.
Yeah, that's what I was just gonna say.
You
Stay
bastard.
sweet. I was gonna say stay sweet, but I couldn't remember it. I almost said be still. I was like, that's not
That's
it.
not it.
It could be.
Could be.
Could be.
All right, sorry.
So he, along with the mustache, he had greasy brown hair, flannel shirt, and square-toed boots. He pulled over in a red van and offered her a crazy amount of money for sex. He was nervous and told her to get in the back of the van while he had a gun out. Once in the van, she was forced to get naked and give blowjobs, followed by having a ton of pills and booze poured down her throat. She remembers
Lays
passing
me
out.
at once.
Yeah.
Don't ruin that for me.
I'm sorry. I'm just gonna start ruining.
Like that's like one of the funniest things my husband has ever said
That's
to me.
my
Don't ruin
favorite
it.
story ever, too.
Slate me at once.
At once.
I think it's wonderful.
It is.
Sorry.
So she remembers passing out with him over her, holding a cord. She was sure she was going to die. When she woke up with her left breast removed and her right was almost gone, there was a wire around the right breast and a guy squeezing it. She then passes out, and the next thing she remembers is waking up in the hospital. The police asked her to describe the van as best as she can, and she does an amazing job. She said it was a red van, tinted windows, because why wouldn't they be tinted?
Right.
Just saying.
You gotta tint those windows. You can't be
Yeah.
raping bitches.
Yeah,
Fucking
it's-
murder Olympics.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you can't do that with see-through windows. Hello.
Right. Hello.
Hello.
Hallelujah.
It had a wooden divider, and there was feathers and a roach clip in the rearview mirror. If you're gonna be
Oh my
raping
God.
and killing people, why the fuck you got shit hanging from there?
That's
So
good that she was be
um,
able to.
I don't know if
Right?
you guys, I don't know if you guys ever like experienced this, but when I lived in California, my dad would take us to the swap meet. And one of the things that was like the biggest seller is they had the Indian, like the native headdress with the feathers that were like air freshener things that hung up there. And then they had the clips on the side for the fucking stoners that could pull them off and use them as roaches and then stick them back to their like air freshener thingy. As soon as you said that, I was like, my dad had one of those.
Did he have a red van, perhaps?
So after Beverly's description, adding with Angel York's, because you remember, Angel basically was only like,
it's a van.
Red orange van. And the cops were like, what do you want me to do with that? So the person under hypnosis saying something about a red van, and now you've got
These
Beverly's. And so they're finally starting to come together and get some information that's viable.
Well, and a very detailed description of one that has the like partisan board.
Right. The divider, it's got tinted windows, it's got such and such in the rear view. So now
Roach
they've actually...
Can't forget the roach clip.
The roach clip.
You got a greasy dude that obviously doesn't know how to shower. He's got a mustache. He likes square-toed boots and flannel shirts. Like, that is specific.
That's like, yeah. I'm surprised she wasn't able to like give a sketch artist something that they could formulate.
Right?
You know,
She may not have seen his face.
Well,
You know what I
you're
mean?
Down here being forced to fillet.
She's eye to eye with a snake eye, but no.
I can give you a description of the snake eye, but not the face.
It's like a fucking scene out of that movie Porky's. I can... yeah. The old ball breaker. I need to identify that penis. That penis had a mole. That poor woman, she probably could have identified him by his...
Yeah.
By his gens.
By his ugh. So it's been around a year and they're finally starting to get some of the answers. And so maybe it's looking like this nightmare might come to an end. So October 10th, 1982, almost exactly 5 months later from when Lorraine was taken from in front of that real estate office, because remember, she's the one that got snatched in fucking broad daylight in the morning. They finally find her body. So she was found behind a bush at a cemetery of the Villa Park, which is it's that neighborhood, that
Villa
ritzier,
Park, man.
that ritzier neighborhood we were
I don't
talking
know
about.
if Villa Park Villa Park is where Linda Sutton was found.
Oh,
Isn't
okay.
that the one by the Rip Van Winkle
Yep.
Hotel?
Oh, the Moonlight. So,
Right by the hour.
or by the minute.
Yes.
A place that the family and the police had actually searched before. So was she there or was she moved there?
I don't know, because later in confessions they said that they had put her there. But how do you... It's a cemetery.
Like, how do you not see a body? Like, there's got to be somebody that
Right.
goes in
Behind a bush.
and they're going to keep the grounds.
Yeah.
And then every time somebody dies, clearly that's where you're going to be fucking
It's a
putting
high
them.
traffic area.
Yeah, and yeah.
The smell.
And they have to mow the lawn. What? Yeah, you know.
It just seems kind of weird that nobody would have noticed her. So it's kind of that thing of like, if they did move her there, where did they keep her in the meantime?
Mm-hmm. Well, that's... they had thought that Lori's body had been moved too.
Mm-hmm.
Because wherever she was at, when she was found behind the Villa Hotel, she had only been there for a very short amount of time, not the full 10 days.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I don't know where they've been stashing bodies
No.
in the meantime.
I don't know, but her body was also so like decomposed that they had to do closed casket, obviously, and it was like her body was pretty well thrashed.
Well, by that point, I mean that's five
5
months,
months
and
of-
most of that was in the summer.
So you're in the hot sun in all of the conditions.
Your people souping.
You're people souping.
Yeah. I bet their intern had to move the body.
Listen, we're gonna need you to go do that. So now what do we have? We've got a van. We have a man with a mustache.
Dude, it's happening.
It's done. And a fucked up plan.
The man, a van,
And a fucked up plan. So we know that whoever is behind the wheel of the red van with the tinted windows with the wooden divider, and the feathers in the mirror is clearly a man with bad intentions.
Yeah.
Like, this is not a good man.
He gives people the Rifkins.
The Rifkins. So anyway, clearly whoever he was, the press deemed him as the Chicago Ripper. And they were talking about like how these people got off seeing women in pain. When it came to the murder, where they would leave the bodies was kind of fuzzy. Some of the murder with, the axes, the faces beaten in.
Strangulation.
There's
no one. So
There's
not
no
only is there
method to the
one
fucking
type,
madness.
Yeah,
Yeah.
not only is there not one type, but there's also not one method. Like BTK or, everybody else, they kind of had a preferred method of kill.
Right, and it wasn't like, like West Mesa Body Pit where they were dumping them all in the same place or whatever. There was no method to the madness, not in the people that they took, not in the way that they were killed.
It's
The
just
only-
chaos.
Yeah, the only thing was the removal of the breast, and I grab my tit and shake it at you because that helps.
Like
you
as if I
understand.
couldn't understand what
Right?
I mean. Yeah.
If you don't know what a breast is,
It's one of these?
it's one of these.
It's one of
Oh.
these. I grab
I
my
had
boob and I
no
shake it at
idea
you.
what these were used for.
God, does that help you understand?
It does.
Fuck. Sorry.
Love
And
it.
they were found everywhere. They were found in cemeteries, alleys, behind hotels, this kind of thing. So it was just fucking anarchy that they're trying to.
Yeah, it's hard to get a profile and hard to try to hunt down somebody when their MO is not the same.
No, they're
Except for slicing
Fuckery.
off titties.
yeah, right.
That's it.
Rape and torture and dead people. That's it. That's all you've got. And a van
And a man.
and a mustache.
A
A
mustache.
mustache.
The old mustache. That is now the name of your fucking van. I don't care what anybody says.
It's been changed from Jenny to the mustache.
The mustache. So 10 days after finding Lorraine Borowski's body, police would kind of catch a break on October 20th, 1982, when they would spot the van. Can
There
you
it
imagine
is.
the fucking justice boner that police officer
Right.
had?
Oh my God!
There it is! Like,
Dun,
oh,
dun, dun, dun.
Call for all the backup.
I imagine it like a scene out of Bonanza where the map is burning and they're all like riding it. It's like, da, 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 da. And they're gonna go get this fucking guy, right?
Right.
So anyway, they pull over and the man behind the wheel didn't really fit the description that Beverly had given him. And this guy seemed younger. He had red hair, not the greasy brown. And
the ginger-headed fuck.
the
The embers of the fucking van driving.
and they find out that this is actually 21-year-old Edward Spritzer. And he would go on to say that the van actually belonged to his boss, Robin Gecht. I think that's how you say that. Gecht?
Geck.
Geck? Okay. So it would be noted that there were two solved, how do I say this?
The
I'm-
two who solved the...
I'm not wording.
Okay, so the two police officers who were the main ones that helped
Thank you.
capture and solve the mystery.
Okay.
Okay, continue.
So the case, oh my God, words
Thomas?
that solved the case was Thomas Flynn and Philip Murphy. This Philip Murphy,
Mm-hmm.
I just feel like he should be really, really Irish and wear like a cap. Philip Murphy. Anyway, this would become kind of like their career case and what they were known for.
I can imagine.
Oh yeah, the
Jesus.
Chicago Ripper.
Right?
Right. They would both receive special plaques for their efforts and like numerous awards. So police have Edwards and they take him to Robin and they call him out of the house. Now, Robin seemed like overly calm, very willing to comply, almost like he knew what was happening.
Yeah, but
He's
he was
just
just
some bitch.
chill.
Like
He
was-
didn't care. He was like, "Oh, you need to come and talk to me? All right, cool." Like as if he was.
About what?
Yeah,
And
Except-
then what?
yeah. Except for police were definitely like, "We got you,"
Fuck.
because he was also wearing plaid and had fucking square-toed boots on
Oh, I love it.
and greasy brown hair and the
Love it.
mustache.
This belongs to my boss. Let me take you to him.
Yes.
But that would be, but when he comes out and he's not like, what the fuck? What's going on?
Mm-hmm.
You need to talk to me? If you stroll out, all right.
All right.
And just, yeah, dude, I could understand where the cops were like, you fucking did it.
Sorry, I went to Matthew McConaughey land for a minute. I'm back.
Right? I did too. I
Oh,
did too.
I would let
Goodness.
that mustache rub me. It's
Oh
fine.
my
Who
God.
wants a mustache, right?
I do.
I
do.
All three.
I love that.
I do.
Oh, I can't wait for that. to
Jesus
come out.
Christ. Okay. The 28-year-old carpenter, Robin
Geck.
Geck. Is it Geck?
Mm-hmm.
That's such a strange last name.
There's no.
I know.
I
I
think
need
there
to-
is.
I feel like it should be a throat
Like almost
down.
Geck.
Like you're hawking up a loogie.
Oh my
Yes.
God.
Robin Geck.
That's what I feel like it should be. I think we need to change it.
You just made. Sorry.
Sorry.
All right, let me get it together. So the 28-year-old carpenter, Robin Geck, would be arrested and taken in for questioning. Now, he matched the description, like you said, perfectly to what Beverly had given.
Like, oh,
I know, like the fucking clouds parted and God was like,
There he
fucker.
is.
I know,
It was
because
him.
there's the fucking van, the plaid, the greasy hair, the fucking boots.
Mhm.
So
we got him.
the police are probably doing like a silent fucking.
Oh yeah, they're like, we're done.
Yeah,
this
Be
is
cool.
good.
This
Be
is it.
cool. Be cool. Oh my God, be cool.
We finally got this motherfucker. So anyway, he was like the exact match. So they would charge him with a cruel assault on Beverly and suspect in another victim, Cynthia.
Yes, Cynthia Smith, who was a sex worker who at one time had said somebody that kind of fit almost like the same description.
Had attacked her, but the date was unknown.
Yeah.
So they couldn't really nail that down and create a report for
Mhm.
her. You know
But
what I
that
mean?
he had tried to do some fucked up shit to her before
Right.
she fucking bounced.
Right.
Right.
So, but it's hard, like, if you go into the police and you're like, hey, this guy looks like this, can't remember when this happened, but I think he tried this.
mm-hmm.
The cops are going to look at you and be like,
Okay.
meh.
And I think that may have
And-
happened before even Linda.
And
Sutton
she was a prostitute.
Yeah.
So they're going to be like, oh, really? Did it?
Mhm.
Did that happen? Oh,
Are you sure?
yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway,
Write it down.
Robin was known as a weirdo. You don't fucking say. And was immediately linked to the Ripper slayings. While they're questioning this guy, he is like, they're considering like who he's friends with, who he knows. Like,
Yeah. So
they're trying to like,
one police officer is questioning him while everybody else is like, let's find everything we can about
Yeah.
this dude.
well, when wouldn't you want to?
Oh yeah.
Because if he's linked to all this shit and there's like, you know, you had that body that had been masturbated on and there were, you know,
Mhm.
several,
extra ripped wounds and stuff.
you know what I mean?
those
Like,
visuals, I can't.
it's, yeah, dude, it's kind of like the Blame Slayer case
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
where fucking stupid face Joseph, no, Jacob Delashmut.
Delashmut.
Like, I still can't with that name. In
That
fucking
still
Zero.
sounds like a
Either.
venereal disease.
It does.
Delashmut
I got Delashmut.
or
It
Delashmut
was
syndrome.
horrible.
What is it from Evolution? The fucking disease that the something. Ugh. Anyway,
Oh, I'll think of
It wasn't Delashmut.
it wasn't. But they like thinking about them continually raping a corpse.
Uh-huh.
I'm like,
Yeah.
dude, come on.
Could you not?
Could you?
Could you fucking not?
For real.
Okay. So anyway, they're in the process of going through and they're trying to find all of his friends or other people that he's closely associated with.
Correct.
When they find, like with this, they find out that Robin Gecht,
Gicht.
Edward Spritzer, and another kid, Andrew, say his last name because I cannot.
Cocorellis.
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 And Thomas Cocorellis, brothers.
That's how we're gonna say it.
Yeah.
That's how we're gonna say it, and it
It's-
might be incorrect.
No, it's not.
Kokoraleis. And I'm shaking my bun with authority as I say it.
I like how you just did that as though you were in a spelling bee. Can you use it in a sentence? Cocorellis is a fucked up man. You're like K-O-K.
Kokoraleis.
Cocorellis.
Cocorellis. Correct.
Sorry, usually I can pronounce things, and this time I'm just like struggling. Anyway, and they had been renting like adjoining rooms at a place in Villa Park's Rip Van Winkle
Yeah.
motel. Almost a month later, Linda Sutton was murdered and left nearby. So they're starting to piece together some of these things. The manager said they were loud, they were always bringing in women, and they seemed to be into devil worshipping.
They like to worship the devil.
The devil. Now remember, if you guys don't follow us on social media, on Facebook, you should, because sluts are for Satan, and he likes mint chocolate chip ice cream.
Yeah.
We've decided.
That's what I was just gonna
Dude,
say.
Satan is my homie.
Apparently, I've been praying to the wrong person. So, but if you knew that these people were like loud and seemed to be into devil worshipping and like
They seem to have like they were a little culty.
They were just a little culty. Like it's like
slightly
being,
culty.
it's like being a little cunty. Which you're a little culty.
Wouldn't you want to keep like an extra eye on him, or if like all this crazy shit is happening in Chicago, wouldn't you maybe like reach out to the police and be like, hey?
Well, but who's the manager? What kind of dude is a manager? Is he some sort of Bible thumping, listening to evil music is of the devil? Or is he some sort of dude that's also fucking eating rock candy, but not in the good kind.
Right.
And hustling his own prostitutes. Like, we don't
It's
know
hard
this
to
guy.
say.
Fuck that guy.
I don't know. I just think
He only
it would,
comes
like-
out later and is like, oh yeah, they seemed a little fucked up, but I didn't bother mentioning it.
I
until
didn't wanna
now.
say
So does
anything.
everybody that comes in here, so.
Right?
Well, it is Rip Van Winkle.
We got
Right.
one guy that asked me to fucking choke him a little bit because I got him off.
Yeah. Just a little. If I start turning blue, stop.
Some hotels have turn down service. We have turn on service. Like,
Turn on with the
I just walk in right before they go to bed. I choke them a little bit.
Just a little bit. Night night. Have fun
So-
with that boner.
The good relations in the bathroom. Oh my god.
For an extra 50, I'll take care of that.
Want me
Roll
to
over.
fluff that up?
I'll do it from behind so it feels like you. So Robin was also picked out of a lineup. Unfortunately, the police didn't have enough to pin anything on him like 100%.
Right.
So moving on, because of this, he was like not set with any
Without-
bond.
yeah.
No, he was like set out, right?
Well, he was still put in prison, but you know, when you go through and I can't remember what the first part is, I'll have to ask again. But they can set you either with or without bond, or
Right.
set your bond at a certain level. He was not set as a high bond because they couldn't pin anything on him. I mean,
oh,
he
so
had
he
the
got
same,
like a lower bond amount. I
Yeah.
understand now.
yeah, he had the same van and everything like that. But other than that, he was a clean cut guy. You know, so
No, he
He's-
wasn't. He had greasy hair and square boots.
well, you know what I mean. But they didn't have he wasn't deemed as like a threat to
like,
society or they
Okay,
weren't
so
worried.
because of that, they made his bond
Low.
lower, and he was actually able to make bail on October 26th,
Correct.
which quickly kind of goes
Then he's like, I need to run under the
like
radar.
under the radar. Like I gotta go hide.
Mm-hmm.
So, but this isn't the end. So while he's like trying to get away, and there's no forwarding address for these people, is that what I'm understanding? Like,
well, while he's made bail, they're still working because they're like, Robin Gex out of the business. We can't touch him right now until we find more. So that leaves us with Edward Spritzer and Andrew and Thomas Cocorales. So let's go back to the manager and we're going to talk to him some more.
because they actually did leave a forwarding address.
Yep.
So I
The brothers.
misunderstood that. Yeah.
Yeah.
The Cocorales. Cocorales.
Cocorales.
Okay.
Okay, sorry.
La
So-
Cucaracha.
I know. I was just getting ready to do the same thing.
So that's okay. So that's what I misunderstood is there wasn't one, but there was. They actually
Yes.
left the hotel and left a forwarding address.
In case they were to get any sort of, I don't know,
Like
my
one of
Satan books.
Right?
If anybody wants to reach me.
So the police go and they visit this place at this address and they talk to Thomas. Now he couldn't give any straight answers, but there wasn't enough to like take him in for questioning. So where does that leave the police? Because now Thomas has they found him. They've
Mhm.
talked to him.
Well, no, they were actually able to take him in because how
Okay, I'm struggling like a motherfucker.
it's okay. No, because they were talking to him, they were asking him questions, but every answer that he was giving was conflicting in some sort of way. So they're like, okay, you seem highly suspect.
Mhm.
We're going to take you in just for some more questioning. And so they did take him in. And then once he's in there, he sings.
Doesn't he like coo coo?
Oh, yeah. I mean, at first he tried not to, but then he took a polygraph test. And when they're like, hey, you failed that. Then
So
he's
they
like,
kind of hit the gold mine with him.
Right, fine.
Mhm.
So that was like their great big goose with the golden egg.
Right.
Yes.
He starts telling them everything. And that's when he starts talking about the cult and blah, 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 blah. So they bring in more things. But before we get into that, we have to at least talk about who the fuck these guys are.
Mm-hmm.
Besides people that like to chop off boobies and rape victims.
So, the Cocorales brothers. Thomas was born in 1958 and Andrew was born in 1961, which puts them at 24 and 21 at the time of their arrests, which was made November 5th of 1982. We don't know a whole lot about the men except for Robin.
Yeah, he's the only one that they really have information on.
Yeah.
There was a book, and I wanted to get the book so I could read the book. However, when I got on Amazon, I don't know if they fucked up the price range for it or if they're really wanting it, but I'm not going to read a light read book because it's not very thick, but it was $98. $98 to $99 to $999.
Serious.
Yeah, I was like, fuck it. I don't care that much about their previous life.
No.
Fuck them. Anyways.
Yeah. However, this is my favorite part about these little brothers. Thomas loved cocaine, weed, and women.
Naturally.
Naturally.
Yeah, and I think he was a painter.
Oh,
if
nice.
I remember right.
He only had an
Huffing
IQ.
it, maybe.
Yeah, he liked to huff the paint.
He was like the little, Happy Little Trees.
Yeah.
Oh God,
Bob
Bob
Ross.
Ross.
Thank you.
I used to watch that with my grandma for like as long as I could remember. I was actually a good painter. I did not huff the paint.
What?
Sorry. Him being the Rob boss.
The Rob boss.
The Bob Ross.
The Bob Ross.
IQ of 75. He reminded you of me. Just kidding.
There are no mutilations. They're just
Just
happy
happy
little
little-
accidents.
happy little
Oh,
accidents.
God. Oh.
Sorry.
That was a great one. No, that's good.
I was going to keep that to myself.
No,
No,
that
that
was a
was
good
a
one.
good- that was a
I'm
good
glad you
share.
didn't keep that one to yourself. That was a good
It's a
share.
good share. Anyway, he had an IQ of 75, which is borderline mental retardation.
Mm-hmm.
In 1957, if you had an IQ under 85, it was deemed as mental retardation. So there's that.
Yeah.
In 1992, they lowered it to 70 to 75.
People still argue that anything 80 and below still hinders people unable to
Like make
do
a
daily
cognitive-
activities.
Like
Yeah.
make a cognitive decision of like, right
Right.
and wrong, take care of yourself, pay bills, turn the stove off when you're done cooking, that
Mhm.
kind of thing.
Yeah, because I think IQ used to be determined like whatever age you were times 10. So if you had an IQ of 80, you really had the mental capacity of an 8-year-old. I think that's how it was. I don't know if they changed it because obviously I'm not going to have a mental capacity or an IQ of 280.
No.
Right?
Is
If
that
anything, I'm Benjamin buttoning my IQ.
Right? Mine went backwards.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
So he was arrested in 1982.
Mm-hmm.
So that in that year, then he was qualified as being
Mentally
mentally
disabled.
disabled,
Yeah.
right?
You think? I mean,
Because they didn't change it till 92.
So 10 years later.
Yeah. So at that point, yeah, these brothers were also raised Greek Orthodox.
Yes, they were in a Greek Orthodox church.
Greek Orthodox Church?
In the Greek Orthodox. And what's funny is later it said that they police and different things within that would handle cases and trials that they felt bad for the brothers and how they grew up. I want to know.
How did
Why?
they grow up?
Like why? What are we missing?
Tell me.
Right.
We need that fucking book.
I know. I'm just
Okay,
cheap.
I'm gonna. You know what? No, I'll see. Like, I'm not paying $998 for it, but I wonder if
Come
I could
on.
fucking find it somewhere else.
I've
Kindle
tried.
version?
I've tried, and usually you have to buy everything through like
Yeah.
Amazon, and that's the only thing I can find on Amazon. And our library sucks and doesn't have it.
Of
Weird.
course, our fucking library doesn't have it.
Mm-hmm.
Weird.
But
So
you know,
then I
they've
got mad and I was like, "Fuck them! I don't care."
they've got
Right.
6 fucking volumes of every Twilight book ever written.
Ew.
God.
Right. Okay. Twilight. But yeah, his IQ is actually going to be important for next week's episode.
Yeah. So
Okay.
Edward, his brother, Edward.
What kind of cunt name is Edward Norton? I love Sausage Party.
Edward was born in 1958, putting him at the same age as Thomas during the time of the arrest. He also had an IQ of 76. Low IQ. Sorry, I'm screwing this all the way
No.
up.
You're good. You're good. So Thomas and Edward, same age. They both have IQs of 75, 76. So it's kind of showing a pattern
Of like
these
where
other men that are stepping forward are not mentally capable of either fully understanding what's happening or they were easily coerced into
Yes.
doing things.
And he's Edward Spritzer, too. I didn't say that.
Oh, you're good.
Sorry.
You're good.
he had also been like with a psychologist who said that he had like a schizoid personality.
Right.
And so what does that even mean? Like,
It
was he
means-
like schizophrenic or
yeah.
like
He was like borderline personality, but he had like this he felt he was he related to people in an inferior way. And he responded to his environment very impulsively. Like he didn't have that whole I should think before I do.
but this guy also had like a history of violence with animals as well.
Yeah.
So he kind of had a piece of the triad, the
Yes.
McDonald's triad, where he at least exhibited
Some sort of.
previous signs of being a fucking nutbag.
Right.
Right.
Is that politically correct? We call people nutbags.
I believe it is.
Okay.
A nutbag's a good word.
Well, he sliced off tits and killed people. I don't give a shit
Yeah.
about him.
Yeah. Or any.
He's not the same.
Nope.
He is not the same.
So Robin Gicht. Gicht, but I like to say Gicht. He was born in 1953, putting him as the oldest, and he was almost 29 when he was arrested. He's the ringleader, clearly. He was a construction worker. He was married with 3 kids, so there's that guy that fit in with everything, like they said earlier. The chill, normal person.
He's
like
the Clint.
He's the
Why do you have to put him in?
Because Clint has a van and can grow a mustache.
Right?
and has a wife and 3 kids.
And he
So-
has the glasses potential because he wears glasses.
So, but he's the one that like you wouldn't think was
Yeah.
He's the
participating.
David Parker Rays.
Yeah, dude, he's
The worst ones are.
yeah.
All right.
Like the other males in his family, he loved big breasts.
You love them titties.
Oh, the daddy likes the boobies. The grandpa likes the big boobies. Everybody likes the big titties.
I come from a long line of titty appreciation.
Just all the women in their family
All the
running
way-
around, tits a swinging.
All the way back from my great-great-grandpappy. He loved himself some double D's.
I come by it honestly.
Fucking grandpa, yeah. He also loved them
Oh,
big
yeah.
titty.
Sorry.
Fuck, all right.
However, their love and his clear obsession was different.
Yeah, I mean,
The other ones
Happy
like the
Geck liked
titties
some titties,
on-
but he wasn't gonna fucking
Yeah.
jerk off in their holes.
Yeah, he liked the titties on the ladies. As far as
Sorry.
Stop. Sometimes she says things.
I know, and it doesn't
I-
register for
it
a
takes
minute,
a
and I'm like,
second.
oh my god.
I gotta look at her and be like, you did say that out
I
loud.
did it.
Okay, all right.
I don't even want to hear it. There has been some text messages from her that I have
Right.
been like,
Okay, yeah.
Right.
just when
Yeah.
I thought I couldn't love you anymore.
Right. But it took me 30 seconds to realize it because it had
I
to sink in.
sometimes will like say something and then even like 30 minutes later I'll be like, I don't know why I said that. That was really fucked up.
I don't
I'm gonna
ask
go with
questions
it.
why I say things. I'm like,
Yeah.
it just happens.
fuck it,
it comes out.
We're gonna go with
So this fella was a little off.
it. A little bit.
A little off.
A little bit off.
When he was younger, apparently he raped his little sister.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Ew.
Secret tickle time.
off.
I don't think it's secret tickle time when she's non-consent.
Yeah.
I think that's like secret.
Surprise tickle time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Surprise. So after this, he was sent to live with his grandparents, and this is where his satanic obsession began.
Like where it like all started to,
Blossom.
yeah.
Old Pappy Geck talking about big old titties. I might want to brush up on the Satans.
Does Satan like titties?
I don't know, but we don't know how they grew up. So like did his grandparents, like did his granddad have some weird shit? Like
I bet.
you would think. I don't know.
Yeah. Anyway, as a teen, his ex-girlfriends would talk about he always wanted to put needles in their nipples. That sounds amazing.
Okay.
In fact, at some point in his young life, he told his girlfriend to remove her nipples or someone else would.
Yeah, he had like this weird thing.
So,
You better take off those nipples or somebody else is going to
Somebody
do
else-
it.
It's like your mom
that is a weird fucking thing to say. Like, wipe off all that makeup or I will. Except, those are nipples.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
can't wipe them off.
If you don't take them off, somebody will. So you might as
Yeah.
well do it yourself how you want, or somebody's
Okay,
gonna do
Robin, who the fuck is going to come strolling along and was like, oh, you have nipples? Not
Give me your
anymore.
nipple.
Well, I'm going to need you to not nipple.
it.
The
Yeah.
only other person that would do that would be David Parker Ray.
Or Ed Gein.
Or Ed Gein.
Yeah.
You know,
Your
God,
selection
maybe
is
he's-
slim.
maybe he's right. Maybe she should have done it first, or else somebody else was going to do it and make a belt out of him. I don't know.
We don't know.
We don't know.
We don't know.
Fuck him.
Maybe they had friends.
But he had like this weird obsession of wanting to know how the titties worked.
Yeah.
Like he was stupid. He didn't understand. So he had like this weird obsession with nipples. Like what makes them work? If you chop them off,
What's
then what
in
happens?
Yeah. Do
Yeah.
you still function? Does it still squirt milk? There's no nipple.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway,
Anyway.
Anyway, apparently after that he cut off his wife's nipples.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah, but
we've heard.
She still stands by his innocence, though. She said,
Yeah, and I just want to walk up to her and be like, take off your
Can
shirt.
I see your titties?
"Lift, flash me."
How many titties
Science
do you
tells
have?
me I need to see what you got going on up there.
Do you have the
Oh
two
my
titties?
goodness.
And if you do have the two titties, do they both have the nipples?
Do you
I
have
need
the
to know.
eyeballs of the chest? I need to know.
I need to know now.
That's so fucking. All right. Anyway.
Mhm.
Anyway, he had many books on the occult and on ancient torture devices, which
Mm.
we are going to cover ancient torture devices later this month.
Yes, after we're done with the Reaper crew.
Yes, after the
Um,
Ripper crew, we'll go
The
into
Judas
Cradle. The
I-
Judas chair, the Judas cradle.
whatever.
Anything related to
If
Judas and
if it
torture,
says
it's good.
Judas in the beginning, it's a good one.
These are good.
Are there any nipple removing devices? I
Yes,
can't-
there
They
was.
do. They do have tit rippers.
Oh,
Mhm.
good. Oh, good. Well,
Tit
that,
rippers.
and that's why he
I
was
gotta
saying
stop
that.
grabbing my own breasts.
Right?
Any
And,
excuse
like,
to grab herself.
Yeah,
I know.
She's like, they feel so good.
It's a new bra. It's a nice bra.
Mm,
Mine's
nice.
all bra.
I just had a titty dance. I feel left out.
Okay.
I'm
There
good
you
now.
go. There you go. We've all had a titty dance.
Okay.
So he also converted his attic into a satanic chapel, as we'll find out later from Thomas, the
Mhm.
little songbird. There's books, candles, an altar, and upside down crosses have been spray painted into the walls. Does his wife know about that? Like,
Yeah.
that's what I want to know.
She
knew
did?
that it was
Mhm.
there,
Mm-hmm.
All right. And you're
Okay.
okay with that?
right?
Like, I mean, I can tolerate some shit.
You've got a mustache, you've got a van, you've got greasy hair, and you've got a chapel in our.
She did not
And I
know
have
about the
no
Holy
nipples.
Trinity.
She didn't.
Yeah, but
She-
who walks upstairs where they should be storing Christmas decorations, sees that shit, and is like, okay.
And
I'm
then-
sure people will think that when they walk into your house too. This bitch got snakes and heads on the wall everywhere.
Okay, that's fair. 'Cause
But
there's,
and
when
like,
axes.
axes and
yeah.
fucking skulls and yeah, all right.
She's probably just like, yeah, he's into some weird
Yeah.
shit. As long as he doesn't have it in the living room, I don't give a fuck.
Right. That's why he's upstairs, because then I don't have to look at it.
Except mine's
Everywhere.
Everywhere.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Everywhere.
Okay, you have a good point.
Right?
I'm not a devil worshiper, just so everybody knows.
Maybe you should be.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways,
You wouldn't have to transform your house very much.
no.
No, you weren't. Anyway. Oh man, that was a good one.
Some of his books included some bizarre history, a torture and sick method of cutting off breasts of a woman. Off a women. A women.
Off of a women.
God. you like to cut teeth off women and make
Off of our women.
and make it do tobacco pouch.
Yes. So, a torture and sick method of cutting off a breast of a woman to be saved and used as a tobacco pouch.
Yeah, that's what people did in history.
Well, it's kind of like what they do with
lobotomies
bulls.
to then
But isn't it like those cow sacks?
Yeah, dude, like the
Like a
nut
coin
sacks.
purse?
Yeah,
yeah.
but they
Yeah.
did them with teats.
Mhm.
I am really
Smoking
Do
tits.
they have the
smoking
needles?
tits.
Look at my smoking tit bag.
Do they have the nipples?
I would assume.
Is that where it opens? I don't know.
Or at the bottom. And just
Yeah.
point down.
Or did they
Squeeze
like
it and tobacco
did
shoots
they
out of it?
Oh, it's like toothpaste.
Oh no.
It's a titty toothpaste.
But I want to know, like,
dispenser.
where was that ever okay?
Yeah.
And who were they taking these tobacco pouches off of?
Right? Were they using them in public? And somebody was like, "Oh, let me see that."
That's
that
a
handcrafted?
beautiful.
That is a beautiful tit pouch. Where
Where
did you
did
get
you
it? Well, sir, I took it off of my wife because she had a teeny bit of cleavage showing and it
Oh
was
my God.
inappropriate. And so I committed her for adultry and I chopped off her titty.
She,
She has one more for a fine sum.
God saw fit to grace her with a spare, sir. And so I'm off to buy a new brassiere.
One that has
Lord.
the full left.
The full
Jesus.
left.
Okay.
Okay. Sorry.
Anyway, this dude had a way with words, an ability for people to believe in what he said or easily be intimidated by him. Later, we find that many likened him to that of Charles Manson.
Mm-hmm.
He must have been very charismatic little sociopath. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, if you can talk people into fucking chopping up women and then doing the things that,
inappropriate
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and everybody else says, when we get into it next week, they all say he possessed us, or he had some sort of ability over us. We did not have a say in anything that we did. He has like supernatural abilities and he has possessed us to make us do these things that we've done. Which, I mean, you're also dealing with people with a very low IQ.
So
I'm sure he's
a way with
probably,
words.
a guy with a way with words who can be intimidating.
Right.
Yeah. And to thicken things up even more, apparently at one point in time, Robin Geck actually worked at PDM Contractors. And if anybody knows anything about PDM Contractors, that's where John Wayne Gacy worked. And Robin Geck was a subcontractor for PDM, so he knew John Wayne Gacy. There's always been the rumor along with Gacy that he had to have had an accomplice, much like Dean Corll had to have an accomplice.
Right.
It would be hard for an older guy to lure these young kids.
And especially men that look like John Wayne Gacy.
Right.
Ugh.
For real.
Fat guy that dresses up like a clown? Sure, let me come on over.
Fuck no, dude.
No. And so there's always been that, but Gacy had even said at one point, one day you will find my accomplices because they are going to grow up and be serial killers themselves. And so some people like to speculate that Robin Geck had helped Gacy at some point in time.
And learned how to do his bullshit.
Right. However, Gacy liked boys.
Right.
Geck does not like boys
He wants
at
the big
all.
titty women.
Method of killing is different.
Right.
Everything is different. The only thing that they have in common is that they both worked at the same place. But pretty much they both like to kill. That was about. That's all they got. But it is odd that John Wayne Gacy was actually apprehended in 1978. And then just a couple of years later is when Linda Sutton goes missing. There's also speculations of another death that we'll get into next week that actually happened a year later. And so they're like,
maybe?
Is this the same?
Yeah.
Is this the same? But anytime you look up the Ripper Crew, this is like one of the first things that pops up. Because media found it out and they're like,
Fucking ran with it.
It's always like the leading paragraph. Oh, by the way.
right. And there was the fact that even Robin Geck had said Gacy's biggest mistake was putting the bodies under his own house.
Yeah.
Like, just all like nonchalant, like
all
this fucking
dumb.
motherfucker.
So I
Oh,
learned,
willy-nilly.
I
God,
learned
why would
by
you do
his
that?
mistakes.
Yeah, let me put one of the most notorious serial killers during that time discredit everything, like this dumb motherfucker.
This bitch.
This bitch. But later, Robin Geck actually said that he had no connection to Gacy. But we'll find out throughout next week's episode. He constantly lies or tries to discredit himself from anything. So do we trust the word of a serial killer? Who do we trust? Media, serial killer? They're both fucking awful.
Why would you
I don't
trust
know.
anything this fucking dude says?
Right.
Yeah.
But on the same breath, you can't really trust the media either.
Yeah.
No.
Fake news.
That was beautiful.
So in a 2014 article from Killer's Crawl Space, they received a letter from Robin, and it actually stated that there is no truth as to I ever working or knowing Gacy until 1985 when I heard Gacy was here at the same prison that he was at. We never met, but here at Menard, I don't know, correction center or whatever, Andrew Cocorales actually became Gacy's cellmate on death row. And that's all he ever knew of Gacy other than
Like
what people know of him and his crimes. And I'll put the link of that in the description so people can read. So this is pretty much what we have on the Ripper Crew so far. And we kind of brushed over the death of the victims. We didn't really talk
deeply
fully into everything because that's going to come later. But we kind of know a little bit about them in their past. We know that apparently they love Satan. They have an addict for devil worshipping.
You've got 3 kids with low IQ that are being...
He comes from a long line of titty appreciation.
Right?
All the titties.
But this is where we're going to stop.
We're going to leave you.
Listen.
Stop. Corroborate and listen. Corroborate.
Corroborate. I'm going to corroborate. How about you? Listen.
Corroborate. brand new invention, something grabs a hold of me tightly, flow like a harpoon, daily and nightly. Will it ever stop? Yo.
That song is so fucked up when it referenced into this case.
I know. I was just doing the same thing. I'm like, I just made it dirty. Did you?
I was just so... Grab a hold of me tightly.
Flow like a harpoon.
Oh.
And she's like
Daily and
shaking her titties while she's doing it. So
Control your tits.
I'm emulating the Running Man, dude. It was popular then.
oh yeah, I
Okay.
can kick ass at the Running Man. Just saying, and the Roger Rabbit,
Me too. I could Roger Rabbit like a motherfucker.
and the snake.
Okay. We're good.
Anyways,
We're doing that again.
that's all we're going to talk about. Next week we'll talk about confessions and what actually happened, the different things, devices that they used on the victims and what they did, and their
Methods of murder.
satanic ritual, because we also need to remember none of the left breasts were ever found.
No tobacco pouches.
Damn it.
All I
Damn
can
it.
think about is the toothpaste. Squirting out. Nope, I can't.
Toothpaste squirting out a teat bag
Of tobacco.
of tobacco bags.
Why not milk?
I don't know. Our history is fucked up. We did some heinous things.
Heinous shit.
Yeah.
Which I can't
Oh.
wait to talk about in our upcoming episodes.
But should we say thank you to the folks that did our promos?
Promos.
Promos. Corpus Derelicti, Bloody Murder, and Soul Forge.
Yes, check them all out.
Definitely go listen, give them a review, subscribe, do all of those wonderful things, and tell me about
My weekly shout out.
yeah,
the
man, the
week?
new one.
Okay, so actually Quinn is the one who was like, you gotta listen to these guys. And it's called the Chief and Sean Show. Jesus Christ.
Mouthificate.
Fuck words make mouths. They actually, if you've ever watched the show on, I think it's Discovery Channel, and it's Street Outlaws. It's the same guys that do that show, but they are fucking hilarious in their podcast because they don't have to have certain things scripted. It's just them. I relate to them on many levels. Go check it out. Listen to episodes 38 and 39 specifically. 39 if you can't listen to 38 too, because 39 is so fucking funny. You will cry. You will be
I'm
laughing
excited
so
to
hard.
because I'm gonna go home and take a tub
Mm-hmm.
and do the bubble bath with the bath bomb,
Mm-hmm.
and then
That sounds amazing.
Yeah, it does.
you guys need bigger bathtubs.
Yeah,
I
we
know.
That's the one thing when we remodeled the Victorian, I was like,
I don't
bathtub.
care if it's in the living room.
Yeah, bathtub that covers my knees and my tits at the same time. So
Which isn't hard for you. You're a people nugget.
I can swim in most everything.
Yeah.
But
You
no,
doing
that's,
laps in your bathtub?
I'm going home and I'm checking this out because
They're funny.
like when you and Quinn start describing some of this, I'm like, I can't wait.
Yeah.
I can't wait.
It's good. It's good.
I
Anybody
agree.
else have any
Podcast.
podcasts they want to talk about? We briefly talked about What the Fuss. Go and listen to them. They're funny.
I do love What the Fuss, and we've
And-
talked about them a couple of times.
When we've said fatty two tits
That's
throughout this
Rocky's.
episode, that's Rocky's. He wants to be fat shamed, so go and listen to him. Understand where that comes from.
Why?
Fat shame him on Twitter and Instagram.
If you see him with chicken nachos in his hand, slap them out of his hand.
Because he cares. I'm okay with my soft, shitty body now. I just, whatever.
I've gotten to a
Give me
point where,
more
like,
nachos.
my husband still thinks I'm very attractive and still wants to see me without my clothes on. So
Some
at
people
this
still want
point,
me to sit on their face. Most importantly, the man with the face carpet. That's all I care
fucking-
about.
So at this point, I'll take all those chicken nachos. I'll
Right.
help you with those.
I'm
Yeah, give 'em to
closer to
me.
30. I got 3 kids. I can never be single because I'm not going to work out either. I'm going to be like, this is it.
This is what you get.
This is all I got for you.
You know what, though?
Where I'm at.
I have goldfish, though. Like,
You know what, though? Like,
fuck single moms
dude-
because they have snacks. They will send you with a juice box on your way out.
Yeah, but, like, dudes still look at me in the store. Like, some of them might have a van, but
I've decided
And they
that I don't
picture
like
you in it.
they're like, are you a great big old fat person?
Are you about a size 14?
Like, oh, fuck, I am. Oh,
Son
God.
of a bitch.
Fast feet, fast feet.
They see us as a challenge. They're like, I'm gonna get her in my van by myself. Challenge accepted.
It would be so easy. Open it up and just say you're selling street tacos.
Oh, my God,
free.
dude.
For free.
For free.
I will
I
run
have
into the
candy.
van with
No
the
shit.
quickness.
I have candy. I have street tacos.
And I got
here.
coffee.
You could be
fucking-
like, do you see this box of kittens? And I'd be like, no, I'm too short. And they're like, come closer and look. And then they would literally just be able to flip the box over me and drag me into the van. I'm fucked.
My only hope is that if I were to ever be kidnapped, I would just sit and start spouting off all of my true crime knowledge, and they'd be like, you are fucked up. Any plan that I had nothing to do with what you're talking about. I'm gonna let you go, and we're gonna pretend this never fucking happened.
It'd be like, let's play a game.
We're gonna make some mustache promises.
Yeah.
We're gonna rub mustaches.
Rub womb rooms. So, but then maybe I don't even have a good one, dude, because they we're snatching women out of broad daylight. Maybe use the buddy system when you're walking to your vehicle.
Or just be a hefty hoe like us.
Or gain some weight and stay on chalk lines.
Goodbye, guys.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Hey y'all, Jen and Lindsay here from the Corpus Delicti podcast, here to tell you to check out our show.
If true crime's your thing, it's ours too. Just a little dash of lightheartedness and a hint of Southern charm.
Serial killers, controversial cases, historical hallmarks, we've got it all.
So just join us every Tuesday on iTunes, Podbean, or many other podcast apps as we dive into compelling cases and crack them open for you.
You can also find us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. That's CORPUSDELICTI.
See you Tuesday.
And he goes, don't be a hero, mate. And I said, I'm not trying to be a hero, but the police are coming.
Good evening, and this city remains stunned by yesterday's massacre.
They are indeed. Let's get murdery.
What were you thinking that first moment when the crocodile latched on?
Smell the glory, Daddy.
Senor Knucklebutt.
I was singing I'm gone.
Hi, I'm Barney Black.
And I'm Tara Saravan. We make bloody murder.
Indeed. It's a weekly true crime podcast focusing on lesser-known serial killers and crime stories from Australia.
And around the globe.
I like eating bananas and punching children. And I ran out of bananas. Bloody Murder is available on iTunes, Stitcher.
And pretty much everywhere.
Welcome to the Soul Forge. A place of silent mystery, quiet contemplation, and outright mayhem. Join your host, Sean Vanderloo, as he guides you through the adventures of living. Together, we'll talk about life and love, sex and dating, joy and heartache, memories and loss, and so much more. Don't worry, it's not nearly as pretentious as it sounds. Get ready for life, the universe, and everything on The Soul Forge.
My dad had a blue van.
Oh shit.
It was the coolest. I fucking loved it.
What were the windows like?
Did your dad have a mustache?
Okay,
Were there windows?
It was like, is it the Econo van? It didn't have any windows in the back because he was
It's the Econo line.
Yeah, he was a carpenter, so he had to put ladders and shit in the back of his van. But
what kind of glasses did he wear?
he didn't wear it. We're good, and he only had a lone mustache one time in his life, and then I'm pretty sure my mom shamed him into never doing that again.
Yes. Get a mustache.
Which is
shame.
good.
We're gonna mustache shame you into being.
His mustache was.
Do you remember Spencer's?
It was bad.
The molestache.
Dude, I cannot with my husband.
That's some
baby
fucking with the
shit
lights
and the
off.
molestache.
Oh.
We love you, Spencer.
Spencer's a good-looking dude until you just put a mustache on it. Then
I can't.
That's a turn the lights down. Don't make eye contact.
I
Doggy
can't look
style
at you.
only until that shit grows back.
He walked out of the house, and I was like, no.
Did you feel bad about yourself that you let your husband leave the house like that? You're like, what kind of person am I?
I contemplated a temporary separation.
Dude, Quinn had a mustache once too, just a lone one, and I said no.
Dude, we have handsome ass, and your husband can't even grow one. So
He can grow a stash. It's the beard that we have a problem with.
he gets all fucking Joe Dirt.
Okay,
He
so
does.
now it's required. We need to get him some double bridge glasses.
And he has to grow
He
a
has
stash.
to grow his mustache, and he
for
has
just a
to
minute.
drive the van.
Yes.
Holy
The windows are
shit.
tinted. Which is the seats come out.
Perfect.
Oh my goodness.
I know what we're doing for Halloween now.
No,
Yep.
we can't for Halloween. He's got obligations.
Growing mustache.
No, he's got to be the Joker again.
Oh, cutest.
Yeah,
Okay.
he did make a good Joker. So
He did
I'll
that
allow
actually.
Badass.
I fangirled a little over that.
Yeah, the picture of him on the train. I was like, oh, look at him looking all like fucking handsome as
And
shit.
he was
I
totally,
know.
he's all owning it. Like, we're on tracks in Salt Lake, and he's got a stroller, and he's dressed like the Suicide Squad Joker. And he's just standing there like,
His chesticle is out.
I know, his shirt's all half
chest is
unbuttoned.
open, got green hair.
He's got like a breeze rolling over his teats. He's just like
suspenders.
Nipple is slightly erect.
The thing that got me was his pinky rings. Like, we were walking up to get on tracks, and I'm like, dude, those pinky rings.
Those pinky rings.
And this lady looks at me like, okay, you're right. All right. I'm like,
Them turning me on.
Yeah, turning me on with those pinky rings.
We should get one for each of our husbands for Christmas. They all get a fucking pinky ring. It has like CMD on them.
Yes.
Little skull.
Our forces
unite.
The hubbies of CMD. Oh Lord.
Oh no.
So back at the ranch.
Yes.
That was a
wonderful.
That was a wonderful squirrel hunt.